Hello! Welcome to Bad at Board Games.
Well, we are bad at board games.
My name's Brad Blake.
And I'm Toph Ferguson.
We're bad at board games, so you don't have to be.
Like Brad.
Or Toph. Or
Tis
like
true.
Toph. You'd rather be like me. Yes. Anyway, what are we talking about today, Toph?
Today we're talking about Nucleum.
Nucleum from Board and Dice. We are a bit of Board and Dice fanboys, but find out if we are a fan of this one. Stick around, find out what our BGA rating is, the weight rating, our opinion, our value rating. Are you getting your money out of this game or not? Pros, cons, all the other things we break down. So, first off, who made it?
Yes, some of our absolute favorite designers as well, Simone Luciani and Dávid Turczi.
They do some good stuff.
That they do. We've got a couple between my shelves and his shelves. We got a couple of the games with their names on it. So.
I think Dávid Turczi does like everybody's solo games now.
I
don't know how he has time.
Yeah.
1,500,000 solo games designed by Dávid Turczi.
And they're good. At least from what I found so far. So
There you go.
yeah.
There you go.
So tell us a little bit about what Nucleum theme is.
The theme, so the players take on the role of the industrialists in the technological boom of the 19th century Saxony to create and transfer energy from nuclear reactors to the rest of Europe. How was that? Did you like my announcer voice in the theme?
I felt like I had to throw a little bit of a dramatic gasp in for a minute.
Sunday, 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 Big Daddy Warbucks and Bigfoot.
I forgot being your friend was so much fun.
We'll sell you the whole seat, but you only need the edge.
In case anybody's curious, this is not performance. This is just Brad Blake. So
Anyway.
yeah, back to the game itself. So
Mechanics.
yeah, so this is at its heart an economic route building action selection game. Handful of mechanics. There's kind of a lot going on in it, but the big things to keep in mind if you're looking for, does this game meet what you enjoy playing? Route building is going to be a huge part of it. So being able to place tiles on a map to expand out your networks. Hand management is going to be a big part of the game as well, and action selection kind of goes along with that, as you'll see here in a little bit. Also has an open market, something I typically do not like, but Brad absolutely likes. He likes to steal the exact tile that I want anytime it's on the table.
You're not hate drafting or buying in this game. Too much
you're
going
not.
on.
Absolutely not. This game also is going to have contracts in it, as well as one of the things I absolutely love, variable player powers. Although it's not so asymmetric that it's going to kind of blow you away, but just a little bit of asymmetry. And then income, end game scoring, things that are going to really boost the ability for you to win, like some people in our gaming group does, or lose, like Brad and I often do, especially with this game. And then the last thing I think I would mention is the ability to build out engine building and a tech tree, which is the asymmetry side of your game, but being able to really get your board or your abilities where you want it to be pretty much at the exact same time that the game is going to end.
Mm-hmm. The player count, so you can play this 1 to 4 players. Have you played this solo?
I have not yet.
Yeah, so we haven't played it solo. Played it at 2 and 3. We have not played it at 4.
We did.
We play it 4?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we've played it at everything except solo. I would say it's best at 2 and 3. 4 was a long game.
It was a slog.
4 was a slog. So you're going to, at 3 players, you're at 2.5 to 3 hours, not including the teach. And the teach for new players is at least an hour. Although you're thinking you're going to be able to reduce that, but if you're going to try to teach it before you play, or versus like maybe play it, teach it as you play, tell people what to do. Mm-hmm. This is a slog to learn.
It is, which is funny because at its base, it's a super simple game, but it's not. It's very complex, and that's what makes it so long to teach.
Yeah.
I tried to teach as quickly as I could this last time we played it, and it still was
45 minutes.
Yeah, 45 minutes.
And I'd already played it, and Derek hadn't played it. But he's pretty good with Euro games, so he's able to pick up a lot of mechanics quickly. But there were still questions even as we were going because he didn't teach everything.
There's not enough time to.
So Yeah, so that kind of gets into our turn. I'm going to do a real rapid turn overview versus like going over every step like I do when I'm soloing these videos. But you're going to start off with action selection chits, tiles, however you want to look at that. And you're going to slot them going from left to right in your tableau. And they have 2 actions on each one. They're all different. And that's going to allow you to do stuff out on the board. You're going to be able to build a power plant, put a coal mine or a building out. You're going to be able to move up on your income track when you do the income phase for yourself. You could get money or an extra worker. You can power buildings that you've already built. And let's see. So you can get contracts. And then this other one with the gear allows you to get more of these action selection tiles so that you don't run out. And we'll get to why that is later. And you accumulate those. And as you go through, as the group goes through that, they get a little bit more powerful stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 action selection tiles. So you do that. And then after you kind of like run out of tiles, or you're kind of like, I want to do something and this has already been locked in, a la barrage, you know, it's kind of like the wheel gets locked in place. You can then collect them all back, and at that time you get income. So everybody's going to kind of be on their own phase, which is a la Everdale. You can be in different phases of the game, and kind of like Everdale, once you bring everything back, you're then going to then use the scythe thing where you take a star instead of a heart and you go place it on part of the board that goes up this track. So like it's one way to end the game doing that. So that's the most of it, but like all these actions have other actions. And then the last thing to note is instead of playing one of these action tiles, you can flip it over and use it as a train track. So you're going to place this action down, this side up on the track. Once the track is completed, you're going to get boons with that. If you are able to match the color when you place this down, you can also take that action as well. So, but then this is gone forever in the end of the game. So it's kind of like you can either take the action while it's on your tableau, or you can potentially take the action if you match colors up out on the board. And then once the track is finished, you flip it over and it becomes a train track. And that's what allows you to do your energy. So, you know, action selection, you can recoup everything, get income, and then your action selection tiles can turn into your transportation train tracks. There you go.
There it is. Now you're experts and know how to play the game.
Yep. And then you've got all these things on your board that you're trying to build and get out on the board, so you can increase your energy, you can get more mines, you can build buildings. So. And
what he didn't talk about was the asymmetry tech tree, which we're not going to talk about. But you can go,
tiny asymmetry.
Yeah, very little. But anyways, it is a fun part for for somebody like me that loves building things out. I love trying to accomplish that. But yeah, that just summed up everything in a couple moments, and it's still there's so much.
There's a lot. Yeah. There is a lot. So pros and cons.
Yeah. So I struggle with this one. I start with pros. I absolutely love Euro thinky games, and this is something that makes me absolutely stop and think at every play that I'm doing, and I'm trying to think multiple plays ahead. And so that is something I think that they did well in forcing you to have to think kind of far into the future as best as possible. And in a typical Euro game, for the most part, other than the route building, you're playing yourself in front of you, so you can do that mostly. Yeah,
it does have some, it's not really worker placement, but there's like when I build a building, I'm essentially making it unavailable for other people to build that building now, or when I place that track. So like
in a space.
Yes, and you're never getting it back. So there is, and that's where it's like, originally I thought it was, barrage and brass and scythe and some of these other things all brought together, and it's going to be this wonderful, gooey, wonderful mess. It's a bit of a mess.
A little gooey, probably too.
So my pro on this is I like action selection. I definitely liked it with, I think this year, this came out last year. We didn't get it reviewed, like in December, But after we played it, we're like, we got to play this more before we can review it. Otherwise, we'd have destroyed this game. It was not the first experience that you want to have in playing a game. So we've played it since then. We feel better about it. Feel like we can sit down and now talk to you about it reasonably, regardless of everything's going on. But I like action selection. So Ezra and Nehemiah, I gave that like game of the year right now for me in 2024. But I like action selection, and I like this is nice because I get both things I pick versus just one. So sometimes action selection gives you two choices, but you get to pick one of the two. But I like that. That is a mechanic I enjoy, and I like it in this one as well.
Yeah. I also like, and this is going to come up in a con as well, but I love the mental challenge of trying to decide, do I keep this as a tile that I can continue to use over and over and over again after I refresh, or do I spend this tile to become the train track? Because in my mind, that is a huge part of this game, and I struggle with putting the train tracks down, knowing I'm never going to get this tile to use anymore. But I think they've done a pretty good job of it, because when you do, as Brad said, when you play it, if you can match the colors, another fun part of this complex Euro game, but if you can match the colors, now you can start to take action. So it's not that you just lose it. Mm-hmm. You can still make it work at least one more time for you. But I do, this last gameplay I had, gosh, I don't even know how many, 13, 14 some tiles, because I kept being afraid to put them out because I'd lose them. And so that's fun. Like, that's a mental acrobatic dance that you're playing of when do I do this? What's the timing? That I like.
And I do like route building. I like it in a lot of different places. The original train game by Martin Wallace that was before Brass. I like that. I like it, I like Brass, one of my favorite games of all time. This has that. So there is, I don't know if it's as fun in this as the others though, but it's there, right? So there's a yeah, that's it.
And yes.
So you got any other pros?
I do have a handful of them. Some of them are very minor things, but I love building out a tableau and feeling like I'm making progress. And this game gives that satisfaction of feeling like I'm making progress, even if I'm not. And what I mean by that is there's so many things that's going on my player board alone, forgetting the map, but my player board. And as I build buildings, it's opening up these spaces. As I build turbines, as I build the mines, it's opening up spaces, and I'm feeling like I'm making progress. So it's not like some Euros can go all game and you feel like you're doing nothing, and then all of a sudden you have the scoring. With this one, I kind of feel like I have some instant gratification as I go throughout of it because of what I can see on my map. I can see my income as it is increasing. I can see like that kind of stuff I like, because it just makes me feel every play I have is extremely important, because it's giving me something, even if it's not. It's hard to explain what I mean by that.
Yeah. But this last game we played this week, I would say I enjoyed the play the most, just because I did feel like I was doing something. My score did not reflect that.
Mine didn't either. Ours was 4 points apart from each other, and Derek's was 100 more.
But yeah, so at least this last time, I felt like I was progressing. How's that? So
you did a lot better this last game than you.
Well, yeah. Before. So that's going to get into my con. There's there's a reason I did a lot better this time than the last times we played it. There's a way you have to play this game.
Yeah, there is.
So, do you have any other pros?
They're all going to be little things, but as somebody who loves playing heavyweight Euro games, like that's my category of probably the games I love the most. This gave you that feel in a lot of ways in terms of the complexity of what's going on the game, on the board. For example, what I mean, because I'm going to have a hard time explaining this, but your nuclear power plants that are out on the board, there's 5 of them. 4 of them, one's coal only, 4 of them are nuclear power plants, and you can get these Nucleum tokens as you unlock your bonuses to be able to slot in it, which means now this can allow for uranium to be passed through, to be processed.
You take uranium cubes, and you're able to then
take them from your mine,
go through your train track route, and power your buildings that you've built from your tableau onto the board.
Mm-hmm. In order to be able to do that, you have to be able to get to this. The only way to be able to get more of these on the board is by doing really well before you refresh, so you have enough stars to get high enough into a new category to unlock another one. So it's like this. They did a very good job of like, oh, here's something on the board. Let's make it complex. Let's give a challenge to be able to use it, to unlock it.
It's a bottleneck mechanic, right? You're not going to go too fast. The game's not going to end too quickly, because the only time you're ever unlocking these is when somebody refreshes and is high enough up on the star track to be the first person in those sections. Then they get to pick where this is at, and there's 4 of them, right?
Yeah.
So
there's 4.
So that slows the game down, but that's I think that mechanic works well in that. I think they could have had a different way to end the game than they do, but.
Well, and I think
I agree with him where that works out. Like, you're not going to have all the Nucleum out. You're not going to have everything you need. You have to do these other things to then trigger getting these cubes out that can create more nuclear power plants out on the board.
Yeah. I also like the combination. Again, this is part of that building up the puzzle of you have to have your turbines out, or somebody's, in order to be able to process more than 1 cube at a time through a power plant. And so like that idea of unlocking things and building it out, again, slows it down, but it gives you this puzzle of, I can't do one thing and be, powerful play done. I have to think so much in advance. Or buying coal, and how it gets more expensive as you go. So you got to strategically figure out how to get that. There's little things like that. Nothing is just one turn done. It's think through multiple turns.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sometimes absolutely what my brain needs when I am absolutely done with being a doctoral student and I want to think about something else in my life.
There you go. So cons, I'm going to start out with, brass, barrage, scythe, mechanic, not necessarily scythe,
Scoring,
the game.
yeah.
The star track.
Yeah.
When I saw this, I thought all these great, wonderful things. This, like if you think about tiers of games, those are elite tiers. This doesn't make that tier. It's clunky. The reason those games are top tier games and the way they are is because their mechanics are clean, they flow. It's difficult, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like it's getting in the way of itself. And I usually describe that as complexity for complexity's sake. There's a Kickstarter, the shooting rockets, I forget the name of it now, and I played it at Tantrum Con, did it, and I was really hype on that. Lacerda's graphic artist, and all that kind of stuff. Ian O'Toole did it, and I thought this was going to be great. It was complexity for complexity's sake, and I call that clunky. They were close to getting this streamlined, in my opinion. But they added a couple extra things. It made it clunky. It didn't make it flow. So that's my biggest con with the game.
I 100% agree with that. We've talked a lot about this, Brad and I, and Derek, and the others that have played it, in that it almost feels like they took every game that is high on the BGG list and just put it all into one game. And that's not what they did, but I like how you say it's complexity for complexity's sake. It's not complexity because this is a great game, this is what we want to end with. It almost feels like in gameplay, and it especially feels like it in the teach.
Yeah, it just really ends up being kind of one of these, the forest for the trees. I think that, we're going to make a hard game. We're definitely going to make it hard. And but you could have made it better, and it could still be hard, but it didn't need to be like, we'll talk about it when we get to the weight rating. I don't want to we like board and dice a lot. You wouldn't know it by this review. This is probably the first one we've ever kind of had these kind of critiques with. Like the last 5-6 games they've come out with are for us, stellar.
Yeah.
And I was and this one, as well as this one did, we thought we would be right there with everybody else, but
I was so excited.
Very excited.
Yeah.
Super excited for this game.
I will say every time I play it, it gets a little bit better. And maybe that's just because of how much the complexity is. It's disconnected, disjointed. But maybe as we get to know it better, maybe,
But the first time we played Brass, it was
oh my goodness,
9.
yes.
Like in Barrage and some of these others. Barrage was, you go watch that old video and see how bad that video is of itself. It like hurt our head.
And not only that,
we just loved it.
It hurt our head so bad that we did an entire review of it and realized we never hit play.
Didn't hit record on it.
So we had to do it again. And yeah, that was a fun one. That was a good fun one. A major con for me is the teach of this game, and I've had to go back and try to figure out how to teach it better over and over again. And I've not figured that out yet. I just told Brad I've been thinking about this since our last play this last week, and I think the only way to teach this game is to sit down and say, you've got 3 things you can do on your turn, and let's go ahead and just start playing. I don't care what you do. Pick up a tile and either put it at the top of your board or put it on the map, and let's talk about what that tile does at that point in time, instead of trying to teach it, because it's just so much. And this last time I thought I streamlined it, and I streamlined it to 45 minutes for experienced heavyweight gamers.
And I'd played it before.
And he'd played it before, yeah. For one experienced heavyweight gamer. Yeah. And he still lapped us. But it is, I feel like, one of the most difficult games I've ever tried to teach. And I think it's harder to teach this than it was to teach On Mars or to teach, some of the Lacerdas. So,
but I think that goes back to it doesn't flow.
Yeah.
The reason it's hard to teach is because the mechanics are disconnected versus it being like this assembly line where you're trying to like, hey, you do this and then it goes to this, it flows to this and flows to this. It might have more branching paths going outward, but it's like, okay, well, why do I have to now do that? Or what is this? Like,
yeah,
the flow, it doesn't.
Which puts me to probably one of my biggest cons is if you put yourself in a situation where you are stuck, which can be done pretty easily in this game. And the biggest way, like in the beginning, first time we played it, what I found was I put way too many of these train tiles on the board, which meant I didn't have the action selection tiles to be able to really do anything. And I was refreshing on a regular basis, which you don't want to do. You want stars to refresh so that you get more points. All of a sudden, I didn't have any more tiles that had the gear icon on it, which meant I only had like 4 or 5 tiles in front of me at most, and I could never get more tiles through the game.
Yeah.
And that put me so far behind. Or as Brad noticed, and I hope this isn't something you want to talk about and you can expand on it, but if you do not establish some sort of, this is going to be my network, and I'm going to do everything I can within reason in this location, and you try to do too much expansion or focus on the wrong things, all of a sudden you're kind of done for the game.
Yeah, so my con with the game, regardless of clunky or whatever, is like there is almost one way to play. And by that I mean you have to establish your energy base, and it's usually going to be around the one Nucleum that's out, which is, I would at least say they need 2, but it really forces you, because we've tried it different ways. Toph and Alex made it sure they had Nucleum established and mines, and then started to branch out from there. Ashby and I tried, we're going to create routes and build buildings, and then we're going to try to then get the Nucleum, the opposite way.
Which is how you think it should be.
Yeah, and then we told Derek not to do that specifically, because anytime we have tried to do it where you're not going for the Nucleum hub first, you get stuck in a game that you don't like.
Yeah.
You think you're doing well, and then it just ends up being this thing like, I can't get any energy. I can't get energy for my buildings that I've put out to then flip them, which give you the victory points. Yeah. So it's not unlike Brass when you put them out and then you're trying to like deliver to them, or, it's a lot harder to energize them. So if you don't create this energy network at the beginning, you're totally hosed. So, to me, it funnels you in a way, and you don't find out about it until after you had a bad experience with it.
Which is something Brad and I try. Brad's really good about doing this when teaching a game, is to say,
don't do this.
Don't do this, or try to focus on this, or consider this as a good option to begin with. Trying to not get players into a position of feeling like I'm hopeless now and I can't do anything and I'm stuck in this game that's taking another hour and a half to play. So that's
yeah. That's my. It's not my only con, but I have a couple others. You got another one?
Well, I did that one, so I'll let you go.
Okay. I don't. The way the game ends, typically, there's several ways for games to end. Right? 5 turns, game's over. What players are doing and trigger things, which is what this game is. This game can be everybody is done and can't trigger another in-game thing. And then the one person can sit there and continue to keep the game going because they want it to, right? And so he's
calling me out.
Well, but you weren't behind, but you could even be like, if you were the lead of that game, like you could intentionally keep drawing the game out, because I can't remember which it was. Oh, if he didn't refresh. So basically, once you refresh so many times, the game ends. You're gonna have that. And he was choosing not to refresh until his tableau was full, which allowed us to have some extra turns. I wasn't super upset with it because it was like I needed 2 more turns, really, to at least get the points I was trying to go for. But I looked at that and I went like, well, this is crap. Like sometimes games end too soon. Like this one ended like you could drag it out, and I still think there's that. You could have less. There's like 5 different ways the game can end, and 3 of them have to trigger. You don't need that many. This is how the game triggers. Once you've done this, the game's over, right? You don't need 5 different things. Or if you do, then I think you really need to start analyzing, is your game any good?
Now, see, on the flip side, I like that. So for me, I see almost more of a pro the fact that there are 5 triggers. So in a 2-player game, and I think the solo is the same way, you have to get at least 3 of the triggers accomplished. In a 3 or 4-player game, only 2 of them have to be accomplished. And so refreshing is probably going to be the quickest way, because as soon as every player refreshes 3 times, that is one of the end game conditions, like triggers. Yeah. And that's what I was holding on to. I also was first player, so when you triggered the end game, it continues around through that round of people, and then everybody gets 1 more turn. So everybody has the same number of plays.
Basically, we had 2 extra turns for the game.
Yeah, and except for in the situation I was in, because I was first player, if I triggered it by refreshing, which means you don't get to do anything. You just pull everything back. You do get income, but you don't get to do anything really on the board. And everything I needed on the board was 2 plays. But I got to where eventually I had no income. I had no people. I had no way to be able to do things. I had to refresh, and then that meant I had one more play left, and it just turned into AP. A ton. There's a lot of AP in this game because there's so much, but yeah, that's my fault. I did that. I drew it out way too long, but I felt like if I ended it right away, I could do absolutely nothing, and it was like 2 wasted turns to end the game, and I hate ending on a wasted turn feel. Yeah. That's a big one. You called that out. I didn't even see that. But all of a sudden you were just like, oh my goodness, come on now. Like, this game needs to end. And I was like, it's me. I'm sorry. It's me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, and I think that, like, if you look at On Mars, which we loved, that suffers the same thing. It needs to be able to end sooner. Like, there's that trigger where you have to get all these things. And it's like, okay, take one of those away. Make it doesn't need to be a 3-hour game. It could be 2.5-hour game. Like, those extra few turns make a game stick around longer than maybe it needs to. I'd rather have a game end and me want to play it again than have a game go longer than I want to play.
Yeah. Now, for me, I didn't get the same impression on the feel at the end of that one, like with this one. Like with many of these games, making it draw out. We love
On Mars.
Yeah, and
that's a long game, right? So I'm not, but I'm just in like, you got to know, and that's such a subjective thing, and we beat this game up a bit. I'm going to quickly not expand on this. Setup's a pain in the ass.
Yes,
it's a table hog.
Tearing it down is the exact same way. So, it is a huge table
presence. Big board.
Sorry,
big board.
Haven't had a lot of coffee yet.
All right, so let's move on. Weight rating.
Yes. So this is according to BGG, 4.11.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot give it a weight rating easily. What I will say is in basic gameplay mechanics, this is like a 3.5. But in the complexity of having to think so far out, it's almost like 4.25.
Yeah, I would say the game's a 4.
Yeah, I think that's where it would fall more.
And I will go back to my con is they should have made this a 3.5 to a 3.75, and this would be a whole point higher on your BGG rating.
Yeah.
Like, I really think, like, if you thought it was a 7, it would become an 8. If you thought it was an 8, it'd be a 9. If you thought it was a 9, it'd become a 10. Had they just taken a quarter to a half of the weight off this, and to get rid of some of the clunkiness.
Yeah, 100% agree.
You don't need it.
100%.
There's a lot of good game here, but they threw 5 kitchen sinks in.
Yeah. That's it. Take away one part of the fiddliness.
It's some of the little things.
And it reduces the weight, and it makes the gameplay feel much smoother. So so I think the 4, like that averaging out, is kind of about where I'm putting it.
Yeah. Value? And we said the teach is a 4.5.
Oh,
or a 5 out of 5. Like as weight rating. So value. So board and dice, one of the great things about board and dice is they give you a great Euro game for the price. Like, I'm always very happy to go buy their games, even if I don't think I'm going to like them. I think there's been one exception because it was an easy game that they made. They had one game that was like shelf something, but it was like a low weight game. I like their 3.5, 4 weight games, Euro games. That's the board and dice that I love, right? You can get this. You should be able to get this for $50 to $60. If this were $20, I'd say this is a 5 out of 5. If this were $100, I'd say this is probably a 2 or a 1 out of 5 for the experience you're getting. At $50, $55, I'm going to say this is probably about a 3. To me, a 3 is going to be like on that verge of, you may like it and you may think it's very much worth your money, or you may say, I'm glad I didn't pay more for it, right? And I've seen it, it's not available at everywhere now. Some of it's sold out, but you can still get it. If you have to pay $70 for it, then the value goes down to about a 2.5 in my opinion. I think this is a $50 to $60 game for your experience. You do get some double layer things, so they have upped the value of what you're getting in this game versus others, where they're trying to keep price down a little bit. But
board and dice makes fantastic components for the price.
But, it's better than check games.
Yeah.
But it's not Eagle Griffin. You're somewhere in this middle ground, which is where they price things. I think it's usually pretty good.
Honestly, it's closer to Eagle Griffin though.
It's not closer. It's in the middle.
Yeah.
In the middle. So that's kind of where I'm at. BGG rating. So I'll start.
Okay.
Since you're the Euro expert and everybody wants your opinion over this.
Not anymore, maybe.
BGG, we've got 4,300 people have rated it, have liked it enough to go on and put a rating in, which always skews, right? We've got an 8.2 on BGG, so that's significant. It's been out, 9 months, somewhere in there. Yeah. They came right out with an expansion. Have had another expansion. They, whatever the buzz was, they already had things blasting right from the get-go with this, so you can get a lot out there. For me, at least through finally that we've got enough games in, I'm going to say this is a 7. I would play it again now. I'm not sure I'm going to ask for this. Just to give you an idea, and our friend Derek went like, okay, I've played it, I can now sell it.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah. So I'm at a 7.
Derek had been wanting to play it, and so he had texted and said, hey, can you teach it? And I was like, oh, sure. Let me go back and get the rule book out. And I did, and I'm glad he asked to do so.
Yeah. We wanted to get some more plays in to at least be able to review it.
But likely there's going to be a new and shrink version of Nucleum on BGG soon. So keep your eye out for that. But yeah, he didn't hate it, but he also was not wanting to keep it. Mm-hmm. gosh, I struggle with this. You guys that watch the channel and have for a while know that I don't like to give bad ratings, and this is not a bad rating. Not at all a bad rating. But I want it to be so much higher because, I gave Brass a 10. Scythe is a 9.5.
Barrage is a 9 or a
Barrage
10.
is a 9.5. Like, yeah, I've got these games that we absolutely love, many of which, now Scythe is not heavy, but many of which is up there in terms of weight. And this, as of right now, before the last play that we had, I would put it about a 6 to 6.5. This last play that we had bumped it up. Did it give it a 7.5 yet? Not yet. I'm thinking it's still about a 7. I want to solo this so bad. I haven't had a chance yet. But now that we've played it again, I've got the rules in my head. I'm really thinking that soon I'm going to pull it out and try to solo it just to see if that bumps it up even higher. I wonder why so many people, so many content creators are giving this such a high rating, why they're raving on it. Why is it that it's an 8.2 on BGG? I want it to be. If everybody else is saying it is, what am I doing wrong? Maybe it just doesn't click with us. Maybe that's a possibility. But it has everything that you would think in a game I love. I'm going to enjoy this game. It's going to be an 8, and it's not. So for me, it's bumped up to about a 7, and I'm hoping a solo is going to take it a little bit higher. But I unfortunately can't put it much higher than that at the moment.
No. So who's this for? This is solid Eurogamer. If you don't like Euro games, hard stop. Don't press go, right? This is also for the Eurogamer that doesn't mind a little bit of clunkiness, right? So I don't think anybody would disagree. This isn't Brass. This isn't Barrage. I haven't looked, but I doubt if this is in the top 100.
It's not.
So, like you just have to understand that, which is fine. I have a lot of games that I like. But if I was going to tell you to go buy a $50 Euro game, there's others I would pick ahead of this. So that's just the thing. You just have to realize, like, yes, I'm a Euro player. Yes, I don't mind a bucket full of rules to try to find the gooey center after you've played it a couple times. But
or also for the Eurogamer who really wants to challenge themselves to figuring it out, which goes along exactly with what you were saying. But somebody who maybe says, okay, I don't like clunkiness, but why is it that Toph and Brad suck at this game?
And maybe you don't find it clunky because you're able to like hone through it. But but I don't even think Derek thought it was streamlined, and he didn't. His score reflected like you would have thought he knew it. He was Rain Man.
Yeah. Well, he was playing against you and I, so I mean,
his score still reflected like he did very well.
I will say this: he lapped Brad. He did not lap me by one position.
Yeah, about 100. We were like 84, 80, and he had 180. He won or two. So yeah, he got all the multipliers at the end.
Yeah.
So
there was a whole lot that we left out of this review because the game has so much to it. So you can go and watch some other content creators who do playthroughs and maybe a little bit better of teach, explanation, that kind of stuff. But yeah, those are kind of our thoughts.
So what do you think? Or do you have it? Do you love it? I had one of you comment when I posted this. They're like, yeah, I'll play it, but only with people who know how to play it from now. Like, there's a truth to that because you don't want to have to teach it.
Truth.
So
I don't even want to teach it to Brad, and he knows how to play it.
Yeah. So just let us know what your thoughts are. I would say this is our first 7 from Board and Dice.
Yeah, I agree with that. And unfortunately, where there are other games that I'm like, tell us in the comments what we're doing wrong so that we can do better in it. I mean, do that, please. Feel free to. But I'm not as motivated to
try it.
Yeah, I am going to try to solo it. Like, I want to like this game. I'm not saying immediately like Derek. I'm calling it immediately, but I'm not as motivated with this one as I am some others. So if you want a Board and Dice option, let us know. We'll give you some great recommendations.
They have some awesome games
Fantastic
that are cheap because hidden gems. I don't know.
Terracotta Army.
Terracotta Army is amazing.
Yeah.
And it is so just been like flying under the radar, sadly.
Yeah, absolutely amazing game. Barcelona, I loved. You
Tile
weren't quite as much. Oh my goodness, yeah. Tekenhu. I mean, there's
Barcelona was I wasn't super high on Barcelona. I'm still higher on Barcelona than this.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And I'm looking forward to Windmill. They're actually going to send us a copy of Windmill, so I'm looking forward to that.
I
But,
might have Kickstarted it too.
did you really?
I might have. I don't know. There were a couple that I did, but it's,
Yeah.
you know, you hear the designers, you hear the yeah, it's just,
Yep.
yeah, I don't know. I might not have not done Windmill, but Windmill I think is going to be a really good game.
Yeah, it'll be out. They'll have it at Gen Con, so mass retail will probably start seeing it in the fall.
And I'm hoping to be able to play more games because I created a class schedule for the fall that lets me come to game night.
He will have Wednesdays free again, so maybe you'll see him here on the channel again. We'll see.
I miss you guys. Although that means I have to spend time with him.
And he loves it. It's the best part of his week is seeing me.
I'm going to let Brad continue to think that.
Anyway,
yes.
just remember, no matter how you play, whether it's solo, with family, or friends,
Enjoy whatever games you are bringing to the table.
have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.